If you've ever been pregnant, you know the drill. You're wrapped in a safety net of modern medicine, prenatal vitamins, and endless rules. Just try lifting a heavy grocery bag, and someone will immediately scream, "Careful!" But rewind 25,000 years. It's negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. No hospitals, no heaters. You are surrounded by massive saber-toothed cats and starving wolves waiting in the dark. With 30 extra pounds, swollen feet, and needing hundreds of extra calories a day just to not freeze to death. How did pregnant women survive? The most brutal ice age in history. What did they do when they simply couldn't run? We are conditioned to think about evolution strictly as survival of the fittest. When we picture the ice age, it plays out like a brutal survival movie in our heads. Men are the heroic hunters, driving spears into mammoths and bringing meat back to the cave. And pregnant women, we naturally assume they were a biological burden. We think of them as slower, physically exhausted, and easy prey for apex predators. According to the harsh logic of the wild, during devastating famines or frantic escapes, these vulnerable members would simply be abandoned by the tribe. To ensure the survival of the majority, that assumption makes perfect sense. For almost every other animal species on Earth, there is just one problem. It is completely wrong when it comes to humans. Pregnant women during the Ice Age were not fragile liabilities hiding in the dark, waiting to be protected. The reality is entirely the opposite. These mothers possess the raw physical strength of modern-day Olympic athletes, and rather than being a burden, they were actually the supreme force that dictated the survival of the entire tribe. To understand just how powerful these women were, we have to look at the dirt. In 1991, deep inside a cave in Ostuni, Italy, archaeologists uncovered a 28,000-year-old skeleton. It belonged to a 20-year-old woman who was 8 months pregnant, but it wasn't just what they found, it was how they found her that left the scientific community absolutely stunned. She wasn't discarded in some forgotten corner of the cave. She was adorned with a magnificent headdress, made of hundreds of intricate, pierced shells, and her entire body was carefully covered in sacred red ochre. But her bones tell the most shocking story of all. Her bone density was incredibly high, proving that she had walked thousands of miles and carried impossibly heavy loads of meat and supplies. Even while heavily pregnant, she didn't hide in a cave. She was out there hunting and gathering alongside her tribe until her final days. And she was not an isolated exception. When scientists conduct radioactive isotope analysis on the teeth of women from this era across Europe, a remarkable pattern emerges. During the most brutal, freezing winters, pregnant women were actually given priority access to the absolute most luxurious, calorie-dense foods available, like bone marrow and mammoth brains. You have probably seen those ancient Venus statues, like the Venus of Willendorf, with their heavily exaggerated bellies, breasts, and thighs. For decades, people thought they were just primitive pornography, but they aren't. They are essentially ancient medical documents, celebrating the female body's incredible biological mechanism of storing fat to nourish a growing fetus through months of freezing starvation. So, why did a starving tribe pour all of their desperately needed, hard-earned resources into keeping these women alive? It comes down to a terrifying biological trap. Because humans evolved to walk upright on 2 legs, our pelvises became much narrower. At the exact same time, our brains evolved to be massive. The result, a baby with a huge skull trying to fit through a shrinking birth canal. Because of this, humans are the only primate on Earth that literally cannot give birth alone. A female gorilla can deliver her own baby and cut her own umbilical cord without help. But a Homo sapiens mother needs a midwife. Without assistance, both the mother and the baby will die. The entire future of our species relied completely on the altruism of the people standing around that mother. This is exactly where we have to completely redefine our understanding of human evolution. The physical weakness and extreme danger of human pregnancy and childbirth wasn't some sort of evolutionary mistake or biological flaw. Shockingly, it was the exact catalyst that created the very concept of human society. Because a mother desperately needed help during labor, Our early ancestors were forced to figure out how to communicate with one another. They were forced to develop complex language to coordinate care. They were forced to share their scarce food and establish a strict division of labor, just to ensure her survival. Human history wasn't actually written by those bloody spears, piercing the hides of woolly mammoths. The true story of humanity was shaped during those endlessly long, freezing nights in pitch-black caves. It was forged in moments where the entire tribe stayed awake, literally linking their arms together to form a living wall of human flesh, sharing their collective body heat to keep a newborn baby and a bleeding mother alive. The relentless, unforgiving brutality of the Ice Age didn't turn us into ruthless, cold-blooded animals, obsessed only with our own individual survival. Instead, it was the profound, undeniable vulnerability of those pregnant women that ultimately forged the single greatest weapon our species would ever possess: empathy. Now, let's bring it back to the modern day. Think about a quiet, dimly lit apartment at 3 a.m. A young mother sits alone, completely exhausted, holding a baby who simply will not stop crying. Today, pregnant women and new mothers have endless tools at their disposal: painkillers, breast pumps, and advanced medicine. Yet, they are more overwhelmed than ever, and postpartum depression has reached record highs. Why is that? It is because we have locked ourselves inside the isolated, four-walled boxes of nuclear families. We expect a single woman to do absolutely everything by herself: endure the pregnancy, care for the baby, maintain the home, and somehow bounce back in just 6 weeks. We have systematically isolated the mother from the very tribe that her DNA has desperately craved for tens of thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years ago, a pregnant woman could step out of a raging blizzard and know, without a shadow of a doubt, that she had an entire tribe willing to die just to protect her. But today, surrounded by unimaginable material abundance and towering cities of millions of people, mothers are left to silently battle the bitter coldness of our civilized society, all on their own. The heartbreaking truth is this: during the absolute harshest, most unforgiving moments of the brutal Ice Age, mothers never had to cry alone. But today, they do.